everybody, and welcome back to A Court of Words and Pages. My name is Natalie. So today I have the second installment in this little series I'm doing on my channel about a bunch of different book series. Just a bunch of different topics about books and series and books and series. And in the first video of the series, I talked about book series that I want to start. And today we're going to be talking about book series that I need to finish. So I may continue on with this series, I'm not really quite sure. I may make some videos about my favorite series I want to reread, or series that I've given up on because I just didn't really like them, but we'll see what happens. Let me know if you guys want to see any of those. And now to series I need to finish or continue. So the first series on this list is a series that this isn't my first time saying, oh, I need to finish that. And that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Remnant Taylor. I originally read Daughter of Smoke and Bone about a year ago. I read it at the beginning of quarantine and I really enjoyed it. Many months passed and finally, I want to say August it was, I finally thought, oh, I really need to finish this series, but I don't remember what happened in it. So I read the first book and the second book over the span of 24 hours, and then I just haven't continued on with the third book. And it's gotten so bad that I don't remember what happened throughout most of the second book. I think I remember the major plot points and I kind of remember what happened at the end, but I don't remember how we got there. I'm not planning to reread the second book. I'm just planning on looking up a summary online so that I can finally get into the third book and finish it, because I really did enjoy the series. I really liked the first book. I didn't enjoy the second as much, but I still enjoyed it, and I'm happy to do the third one. To motivate myself to actually finish the series, I'm saying I can't start The Strange the Dreamer duology, which I got the first book for Christmas and I'm really excited to read, until I finish this series. Both the series are by Remnant Taylor, and I don't feel like I should have two series by the same author going on at one time. So just to kind of give you a really good sense of what this book is about, because I do know how to explain it, but I think the actual synopsis of it does it so much better. So I have my computer here and I'm going to read you what it says. Around the world, black handprints are appearing on doorways, scorched there by winged strangers who have crept through a slit in the sky. In a dark and dusty shop, a devil's supply of human teeth grows dangerously low. And in the tangled lanes of Prague, a young art student is about to be caught up in a brutal, otherworldly war. Meet Carew. She fills her sketchbooks with monsters that may or may not be real. She's prone to disappearing on mysterious errands, and she speaks many languages, not all of them human, and her bright blue hair actually grows out of her head that color. Who is she? That is the question that haunts her, and she's about to find out. When beautiful haunted Akiva fixes fiery eyes on her in an alley in Marrakesh, the result is blood and starlight, secrets unveiled, and a star-crossed love whose roots drink deep of a violent past. But will Carew live to regret learning the truth about herself? Throughout the first book, one of the main mysteries you're reading to find out about is Carew's past, and something that I absolutely loved about the series was kind of the scene in which she learns in it. And then Days of Blood and Starlight is completely different than the first book. The tone totally shifts because you're set in a completely different place. And the way the characters interact with each other are a lot different, because in the second book she knows her past, she knows what's happened to lead her to where she is, and it's so beautiful. The characters are all absolutely fabulous, and I'm very excited to finally finish the series, although I do think the third book is big, but big books don't scare me that much. So hopefully I'll get around to it very soon. The second series is another series where I just need to finish the final book, and that is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. If the third book, Lightbringer, had been out when I was originally reading the series, I would be done with this series by now. I would have just immediately gone into it, because I read Furyborn over the course of one day in August, and at some point in the next week I read the sequel equally as fast, but the third book wasn't out yet, so I had to wait. And now it's just another series that's sitting unread. So in Furyborn, we kind of follow this prophecy, and it's this prophecy where in this kind of world there will be two queens. One queen that will save the world and one that will end the world. So we're following two different timelines set 1,000 years apart. And in the first timeline, we follow Riel, who is going through trials to prove that she is the Sun Queen. She is the queen that will save everyone else, and that she is not the Blood Queen. She is not going to doom people to a fatal death. 1,000 years later, we follow Eliana, who is a bounty hunter for the Empire, and one day Eliana's mother vanishes and she has to go to find her. Eliana teams up with Simon, who's a rebel fighting against the Empire, to go and find her mother. Glancing in at it, these two storylines may not seem like they're connected, but throughout the book, and throughout actually the sequel book, by bouncing back and forth between the timelines, you start to uncover the mysteries of how these two girls' lives, who live two completely different lives, not just because of the time difference, but because of who they are, and what their morals are. You see how they are connected in so many different ways. So this is one series where you're split between perspectives. Kind of every other chapter rotates between Eliana and Riel's perspective. And I don't love Riel's perspective, but the book is like enough engaging that I don't find myself dragging when I get to her chapters, which is something I find in a lot of books with split perspectives where I don't like one of the characters. So I think that was really good. I love the characters in this series. I think they're all really well developed, and even the really unlikable characters, you can find good things about them and understand why they're doing everything while still not being able to overlook their flaws. There's some romance in the series, which I really enjoy. And oh my, did the second book leave off on a cliffhanger that made me screaming, I need this third book now. So this is another one where I'm probably going to have to read a summary of the second book because there's not a lot up here anymore, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm really excited to finish the series, as it's one that I really did enjoy when I started to read it, and so hopefully I'll enjoy the finish of it. Apparently we're continuing on this theme of just needing to read the third book in a series, because the next one is yet another where I just need to finish the final book in the series. Except for this is a bit different because this series is part of a more expanded universe, and the book I need to finish is just the final book in one of the trilogies, and that is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. So I'm not going to hold this book up for the entire time because it is just way too big to be doing that, and that is a huge book. The Dark Artifices, which is what Queen of Air and Darkness is part of, is the kind of the third series that Cassandra Clare wrote in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and she's currently in the middle of writing the fourth series, The Last Hours. And while these two series are not like directly related with the characters they're following, I do want to read her books in chronological order, so I'm making myself finish no matter how excited I get for The Last Hours after seeing everyone's buzz about it, especially because Chain of Iron just came out. But I will make myself finish this series before moving on to Chain of Gold, no matter how intimidated I am by the size of that third book or the fact that I do not remember anything about the series. Natalie, that is what summaries online are for. So I can't tell you a whole lot about the Dark Artifices series because not only is it kind of set in the Shadowhunter world as the third series, but the series is very much directly impacted by the end of the Mortal Instruments. But in the series, we're set at the Los Angeles Institution and we're following Julian Blackthorne and Emma Carstairs. And I think that's about what I can tell you. So once again, this is a series that I really did enjoy while reading. I kind of binged Cassandra Clare's books over the summer, and so by the time it got to this one, it was so much in so little time that I was just like, I can't do this. I need a break from this world, especially as a lot of the details were starting to get mixed up and I couldn't remember who was who in this story. And so I'm just gonna read some summaries, figure it out, and get back to this world, especially because I love the characters in this series. I can't decide if I like this series or the Infernal Devices better, but the Blackthorn kids in this series are just some of my favorites, and I really love Julian and Emma and their friendship, as well as the romance that blossoms between them throughout the series. But when it comes to the plot of this series, I really remember next to nothing, so I definitely will have to refresh myself before I go into this epic banger of a conclusion. So, kind of switching it up to a more recent series that I've picked up, still not like totally recent like last month, but closer than some of these other books. I want to say I picked it up in fall of last year maybe, and that is the Iron Face series, and right now I am on book 3, The Iron Daughter. So the two books that follow this are The Iron King and The Iron Queen, and then now we're gonna have The Iron Daughter. So I've definitely been dragging my feet to read this series and just kind of continue on because I really loved the first book. I kind of loved the magical tone. I loved the Fae world we got to explore. I thought the characters were fun and interesting, and the romance, I really did enjoy that. In case you can't tell, I like romance, and if it's a good romance that's done well, hey, I enjoy it. But the second book, I didn't love as much. It felt very repetitive. It felt very similar to the first book, and even it felt like it kept repeating itself in terms of plot and in terms of some of the conflicts in the romance, and it felt like Megan and, I forget his name, her love interest would be like, oh, we love each other, and then 5 seconds later it would be like, no, we can't be together, and then, oh, we can be together, and then, no, we can't. And so I just definitely after reading that book, I was not like totally in the mood, yes, I need to continue on with the series. but I do want to finish it and just at least give it another book to see how I like it. And you know, if after this it's one that I'm just not liking, then that's fine. I can DNF it, but I want to give it another shot, just given how much I loved that first book. So once again, I'm just going to read you the synopsis off of my computer because I couldn't really tell you exactly what the series is about. I remember like the details of it more than probably any of the other ones, but I wouldn't know how to describe it. Megan Chase has a secret destiny, one she can never have imagined. Something has always felt slightly off in Megan's life, ever since her father disappeared before her eyes when she was 6. She never quite fit in at home or at school. When a dark stranger begins watching her from afar, and her prankster best friend becomes strangely protective of her, Megan senses that everything she's known is about to change. But she can never have guessed the truth, that she is the daughter of a mythical fairy king and is a pawn in a deadly war. Now Megan will learn just how far she'll go to save someone she cares about, to stop a mysterious evil no fairy creature dare face, and to find love with a young prince who might rather see her dead than let her touch his icy heart. I'm not gonna lie, that last part of the synopsis about the fairy prince sounded real cringy, but that romance is not that cringy in the book. At least in the first one, and the second one it does get a bit cringy. So I really liked Megan. I thought she was a fun character. I liked Puck, who's her best friend, mentioned in the synopsis. I think kind of the twist on him was really fun. And I like Ash, who's the fairy prince. I think he had a lot of depth in the first book, and it kind of felt like he lost that in the second book, which is kind of why I didn't love it as much. And I think it's going to be especially interesting to see where the plot moves in this, as kind of the main conflict, the war, is settled at the end of the second book. So I think the third book's going to bring a new conflict, which will be interesting, and you know, let's just read it. Let's just do it to see if I like this series or not. I debated including this next series on the list because technically the part of the series I'm in right now I have read already, and it is a reread. But once again, the series is part of another expanded universe where the next series I'm going to read in it aren't rereads, so I figured, yes, I can include that. And I'm talking about the Heroes of Olympus series, and right now I am on book 4, The House of Hades, and these books are by Rick Riordan. So the Heroes of Olympus series is kind of a sequel series to the Percy Jackson series, which of course follows Percy Jackson, who thinks he's just an ordinary boy who has really bad luck until he goes to Camp Half-Blood and finds out that he is the son of Poseidon, and then he has to go on a quest to find Zeus's thunderbolt because Zeus thinks that Percy has stole it from him, and unless he has it by the summer solstice, he will start a war. So that's kind of just Percy Jackson in the first book, and then the series expands, and then we get to the Heroes of Olympus series, and it's like, ooh, new characters, ooh, like new mythology stuff, and it's great. New quest, new prophecy, let's do this thing. So I don't love the Heroes of Olympus series as much, which is why I've been dragging my feet to reread it. I started rereading Percy Jackson during quarantine last year. I read it with my sister, and then I just kind of slowly dragged my way through the Heroes of Olympus series. And it's partially because I'm embarrassed how little I remember from this series. I loved the Percy Jackson series growing up. They were my thing, and I loved this series just as much, but I don't remember anything about the last 2 books in the series. I'm pretty sure I saw something like on Instagram about a spoiler from the last book, and I thought, oh, I've read the series, I don't need to worry about being spoiled. And I read that and I was like, wait, what? I think it was something to do with the character's death, and I was like, I do not remember that. So that just kind of clued me. Okay, we need to speed up this reread. I don't love the series as much because I don't love the new characters as much. I really want just Percy and Annabeth and Grover. That was the trio. That was the goodness. But we do have some good characters in this one, except for Jason. I don't like Jason, just putting it out there. And then I do want to move on to the next books in this kind of Percy Jackson universe. Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, which is kind of more Norse mythology, and then the Trials of Apollo, which just ended last year and is like the final book Rick Riordan has wrote in this kind of universe, and I want to be able to read it so I can kind of know how it ends and know where the conflicts in these later series take us. And the final series I'm going to put on this little list is The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson, and I have only read the first book in the series because of Deception. I don't know what the other books are, and I just don't know anything about this series pretty much besides what the first book was. But I ended up really enjoying the first book. I didn't enjoy the beginning of it. I was kind of skeptical, and I found it kind of hard to get into. The magic system really confused me, and I still don't have answers to it. So I think I'll have to look some stuff up to see if I missed anything in that first book. But I don't think I have to reread it, but I may reread it just for fun because the first book is actually a lot of fun. So in Remnant Chronicles, in the first book at least, we follow Princess Leia, who in an attempt to get away from arranged marriage she is being forced into, just kind of flees her life as a princess. She runs away, goes to this remote village kind of on the edge of her kingdom to start a new life. But little to her knowledge, she is pursued by two people. First, the prince she was supposed to marry, who wants to bring her back and wed her and like kind of find out why she's run away. And B, an assassin from a rival kingdom who wants to take her back for his king. And basically the twist is you don't know which man is which. Like, you don't know who's the prince and you don't know who's the assassin, and it's like, well, who knows. So I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I think that the whole like mystery as to who was done really well. I did think I ended up guessing, but like by the point you kind of were really sure in your answer, other plot elements had started to come in that made you just as interested to carry it on. And definitely the book ends off at a point that should make you be reaching for the second book, but it just didn't make me do that. I think I do actually want to reread the series to kind of remember the characters, remember which characters I liked most. I know there kind of are some levels of romance into this book, and I know that Laia did have a good friend that she kind of traveled with, and I forget how that was ended, so I want to see if maybe she's going to come into play with this. So I do have to read the second and the third book to finish off the series, and something that I think will motivate me is I think there's another series that's set in this world. It's like The Dance of Thieves. I think it's a duology maybe at this point, and the covers look really interesting. I don't know really anything about it, but I've seen fan art and I've heard people talking about how good it is, and so I'm just like, well, I want to read it, but I can't because I haven't finished the series yet. So we're looking for motivation. Hopefully I'll find it sometime soon just to finish another series. So I could probably go on and on about series I need to finish, but I think I'm going to cap it at that. I think that was 6, so hopefully that was 6. I figured I did 6 series in the first video, so I should do 6 series in the second video. That seems like a nice even way of starting series, but also finishing series. So thank you guys so much for watching. Down below you'll find a link to my Goodreads and my Bookstagram if you want to follow me there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!